All right, some breaking news that has just come in where India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, we are given to understand, has reached Leh in Ladakh along with the Indian Army Chief and also the Chief of the Defence Staff. The visit sends out a very strong message to China amidst the escalating border tensions. The Prime Minister will be reviewing the security situation at the border, and we've learned from our sources that the Prime Minister will also be meeting with some of the soldiers who were injured in the violent face-off at the Galwan Valley. The Prime Minister Modi is presently at one of the forward locations in Nimu in Ladakh. Now, we're given to understand that he reached there early this morning and he is interacting with the personnel of the Army, the Air Force and the ITBP who are stationed there. Located at about 11,000 feet, this is amongst a very tough terrains, and it is surrounded by the Zanskar range and on the banks of Indus. And as we said, the Prime Minister is accompanied by the Army Chief, General Naravane, and also the Chief of Defence Staff, Bipin Rawat. And to give us more insights into what this visit actually means and as to how significant this visit is, we are joined in by our Senior Political Affairs Editor, Karthikeya Sharma, who is joining us over the phone line. Good morning to you, Karthikeya. This is a very strong message by the Indian Prime Minister by personally heading over to Ladakh.
I think it's a very rare occasion that any Prime Minister who has gone to Kashmir has done it in a way which has taken everyone in media by surprise. Generally, the visits of Prime Minister to any such areas, Indian Prime Minister, and keeping in mind that he would be visiting forward areas, the sort of climate it is we have witnessed, I think they decided that it's best in the security that the trip or the movement of the Prime Minister is kept hidden from the public gaze in the last minute. So saying that, I would say that the movement of the Prime Minister took everyone by surprise, one. And secondly, it is for this reason the trip of Defence Minister Rajnath Singh was cancelled yesterday. A lot of people thought as to why his trip was cancelled at the last minute. But I think this trip is also about messaging. And the messaging is that the Prime Minister himself is seized of the situation, hands-on. And I think he's slightly cut from a different cloth. His photographs of the soldiers, though earlier, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was Prime Minister between 1998 and 2004, this was primarily done by then Defence Minister George Fernandes. But in this case, Prime Minister does it himself. So it serves and plays at multiple levels, Sade. One, which is at the level of messaging. Second, which is at the level of morale. And third, at the level of giving this message to the forces itself that the civil leadership or the civil diplomatic leadership stands shoulder to shoulder with the military leadership.
And also, Karthikeya, the significance of this visit by the Indian Prime Minister, considering the fact that this visit comes in the aftermath of that violent clash that took place in the Galwan Valley and the face-off that the Indian and the Chinese forces have been having at different points along the border, this clearly sends a message to China that is not lost on anyone. And the fact that the Prime Minister is accompanied by the Chief of the Army Staff and also by the CDS is something that is extremely significant. And from the pictures that are coming in, it's hard to say whether the Prime Minister is also wearing the military fatigues. How significant is that?
I think that is why I said that the Prime Minister is cut from a different cloth. For example, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, or Narasimha Rao. You take any other Prime Minister, in terms of body language, in terms of what they wear, there was a line which would divide, which differentiate, if I would choose the word rightly, differentiate between one setup from the other, which is military and civil. But I think in this case, this is about solidarity, if that's the correct word to use. Right. And solidarity is that the Prime Minister himself is out there. If you look at the visuals, he's not only going to meet those who are injured, but he's doing it forward areas. And forward areas means that the Prime Minister is out there somewhere very close to the line of actual control. So I think it's also about messaging that, he's a hands-on Prime Minister. You look at the photograph, though, social distancing is being maintained, and this is of Nimu, and he's taking a briefing. So, it just goes on to show that there is a display of resolve. solidarity with soldiers, a hands-on approach, and messaging back to the people, who are not there in eastern Ladakh, that the Prime Minister will not let go of what has happened in Galwan. So I think picture says more than 1,000 words, and that's what this picture, which we are beaming right now, the move from Ladakh, just clearly shows that the Prime Minister is displaying his intent, he's displaying his solidarity, he's maintaining social distancing. Look at the visuals.
And
social
it's also about the morale
maintained.
of the soldiers, because at the time when the clash happened, a lot of people were looking at as to what will be the direction that will be given by the political leadership. And a lot of people also started asking a few questions when the Prime Minister, in his address to the nation, he came out and made that statement where he said that, to use his words, "Na hamari seema mein koi aaya hai," and he went on to state a few things. But this particular visit by the Prime Minister is quite clearly sending out a very strong message to China that India is going to be very firm on certain red lines and the Chinese dare not cross them. This is the message that is going out there.
Well, I concur with you, Saleh, because, a sort of a meeting like this between Prime Minister and soldiers will require a lot of efficiency, a lot of confidential communication, a lot of organizational muscle, and look at the finish, and look at the surprise value of it. That not a single person had an idea till Prime Minister landed and actually went to the spot. So what we are actually beaming across wider platform is not the picture of Prime Minister taken 5 minutes back. This has already happened because these are deferred pictures of the Prime Minister. Secondly, Prime Minister has chosen not to speak lot on China because, Prime Minister understands that, he has to show the resolve, he has to empower the army to take on the Chinese, but without vitiating the political atmosphere back at home. So you would have noticed that most of the ministers, apart from one or two who need to talk to the media and the people at large, are not trying to harvest domestic public opinion against China. It is very, very different from the way the same brass responded vis-a-vis Pakistan. It is not the same response vis-a-vis China, where there has been a lot of outrage on it. So pictures are saying more than the 1,000 words could do without inflaming emotions, without pandering to the sentiments, or without a war cry. But these are the pictures of solidarity, or these are the pictures of a person who's tuned in to the issue. Look at the body language of the Prime Minister. Look at the body language of the Chief of Defence Staff who is accompanying him. These are solo photographs of Prime Minister from Ladakh, or the Army Chief who is standing next to him on his left side and the CDF on his right side. These are the pictures of body language of the Prime Minister with the soldiers, without saying a word on China, without saying anything, giving a bite to media right now. But the message has been conveyed that the preparedness of the Ladakh sector, preparedness of the Indian Army, Prime Minister himself is seized of the issue. Though it's a very long comparison, but this is something, the unannounced visit takes place when American presidents go to Afghanistan, which are war zones, or they go to Iraq. But in this case, since the Prime Minister has gone nearer to the line of actual control, all these precautions have been taken. Generally, when the dignitaries go to areas...
Right. Absolutely, indeed. There seems to be a bit of a problem with the line with Kartikeya Sharma. We'll try getting back online with us, but this is what we know. These are deferred visuals that are coming in. We're given to understand that the Prime Minister landed at 8:30 in the morning. The 14th Corps Commander briefed the Prime Minister, the Chief of the Army Staff, and also CDS Bipin Rawat about the situation at the line of actual control. And this is a surprise visit. No one had any inkling of the information that the Prime Minister was to land in Ladakh this morning. What is also interesting is that the Prime Minister has not directly named China at all. There has been no soundbite given. There's been no statement that's been made by the Prime Minister. He will also, we're given to understand, be meeting those soldiers who were injured in that clash at the Galwan Valley. A lot has been happening at the Ladakh in the Ladakh region at the line of actual control with China. The importance and the significance and the symbolism of this visit is not lost on anyone. It's not very clear from the pictures of the Prime Minister who was seated there. It's not very clear whether he's wearing military fatigues. But in this picture that you see where he's standing in front of the helicopter, he's in normal civilian clothing. But this picture that we're talking about, if he is indeed in military fatigues, this also sends out a very strong message about the resolve of the political leadership of India as to how it intends to take this little standoff that we are witnessing with China forward. A lot of questions had been raised. Once the Prime Minister in his address to the nation had said, "Na yahan par hamari seema mein koi aaya hai, na hi koi ghus ke baitha hai." And this is now sending out a very strong message that India means business. He's not named China. Nothing has been said in terms of what will be the mode of action that will be taken from here on. But the symbolism of this visit has not been lost on anyone.